All right, all you Yinzers, welcome to another episode of the Mad Chad and Eddie Show on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network for the first time on the actual network, Chad. Monday, we had Around the 412. Yesterday, we had Yinzers, and now today, Wednesday, is the new home for Mad Chad and Eddie. It is good to be here. It is good to be with you, Chad. How's it going, buddy?
Personally, great.
Right.
Excited. I mean, we've already been on the DK. You and I have said that we were kind of the guinea pigs for this experiment, which is going great. And now to see all the excitement and like it's in life, it's fun to be a part of anything that's like exciting like this.
Yeah.
But like, you know, for a lot of the people involved, and listen, we're not big shots. We're not getting paid millions of dollars by ESPN. But for a lot of people, and myself included, and yourself and a few other people, were told like, you'll never be paid to talk about sports, or you'll never be in a. This is a step up the ladder for a lot of people.
It really is, man.
DK, whatever you think about him, because Lord knows I've had my disagreements with DK, and I know you have as well.
Yeah.
He has literally used his presence, which is very huge, to give small-time creators who he thought, hey, these guys have a good podcast, these guys are funny, these guys are this. He has allowed small creators to be exposed to people that they probably wouldn't have been exposed to if he would have done it.
Yeah, and it's a good situation for all of us, and I'm excited about it. And you know, like people talk about competition all the time, and I just saw today that the PG is dropping a weekday podcast thing. We're kind of similar to what we're doing, and you know, I think that's great, man. I think it's awesome to get more people in this space, to get new voices out there, to get, you know, like that's what this was all about. When DK and I, you know, when DK had the idea and I, you know, came on board with it, it was just, we want to get voices that normally wouldn't be heard, and we want them to be heard because they're entertaining and they know what they're talking about. And so that's where we are. And
the consumer wins the most because now there's going to be so many. I don't like this podcast, but I like these. You can never have it, you know, as a consumer, you can never have as much choices as possible. And also healthy competition is good. Now, if personal attacks and all that stuff, but like you and I, like with these other podcasts, we've talked like, oh, wow, their podcast is really good.
Yeah.
We need to step our game up, or we need to do this.
Exactly.
Do that.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. You know, like just the healthy competition, the, you know, all of the new voices that we can hear and all of the new opinions, the new, you know, outlooks on life and on sports. I'm excited about all that. With that said, you told me when we were getting ready that you basically have a monologue ready to go on the TJ Watt situation. So I always, if you haven't heard this before, if you're new to the show, I always joke that there are times when I know that I could just wind Chad up and let Chad be Mad Chad. And today is one of those days. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to wind it up and just let you roll, man.
Well, I'm going to want your thoughts on this too. But so today, I mean, obviously today, you know, anybody that's been on social media today that's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan knows that we're talking about the TJ Watt situation.
Yes.
He's holding out right now. He wants a lot of guaranteed money. The Steelers are notorious for not giving guaranteed money. What I don't understand, and I'm going to try not to get political, but it's going to sound political because I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, well, TJ has a contract and the Steelers, I root for the Steelers, not TJ Watt. Okay, I get that. And listen, I'm not going to cry myself to sleep because TJ Watt's going to have more money this year than I'll ever see in my lifetime. I'm not crying to sleep over TJ Watt. I'm not a TJ Watt fanboy or anything like that. However, I am pro-union. I am pro-worker. And TJ Watt is what I would consider to be a skilled worker. Also, as for TJ Watt having a valid contract right now, I think the objective opinion would be that the current contract that he had when he signed as a rookie, he's vastly outperformed that contract. Would that be a fair assumption?
That is a 100% fair assumption.
Okay. Now, my guess, I don't know TJ Watt, but my guess is even if they don't get a deal done, he's probably going to, I can't imagine him forfeiting $10 million and sitting out. It would be a very bad PR move, and he's going to lose a season in his prime and everything like that. That said, you know, it's funny that I see all these people like, oh, TJ Watt's being greedy and the Steelers need to worry about themselves. But it's, why aren't the owners ever greedy? Why, you know, it's like, well here's the biggest argument I've seen, and it is a fair argument, is that the Steelers are worried about giving him guaranteed money because what if he doesn't perform, or what if he gets hurt? Okay, but again, being on the worker side of this, if TJ Watt next year just starts to not play good, guess what? The Steelers can go, you know what? We're done. We're terminating your contract because NFL doesn't have guaranteed contracts.
Right.
And it's just weird to me in America, because this is definitely more of an American problem, because I have a lot of European friends that are into European sports, soccer, and all that stuff. And they have a totally different outlook, even when sports on this is, they don't take the owner sides in Europe. They are very different, critical of their owners in Europe. And why aren't we like that in America? I don't
even
get
it. Even from an NHL, so like if you'd want to talk hockey contracts are guaranteed in the NHL. So
and hockey's just as physical as the NFL.
So here's my take on it, because I agree everything that you just said. I 100% agree with you.
Okay.
And normally, you and I will go rounds on certain things, but this is one that I think you and I are in lockstep. And I would be careful to not call it a holdout, because I think in a traditional holdout, he would be not showing up at all.
Fair enough.
TJ Watt has been at training camp, all camp, and he has been working as hard, if not harder, than every player on the field.
Okay.
He's working a sweat every single day. He is giving his all on the field. What he's not doing, though, is he's not putting pads on, and he's not going into organized team activities where there's a good chance that he could get, or not a good chance, but a chance that he could get hurt. Now, he also today, according to Mike Tomlin did say that he expects TJ Watt to be a full participant in practice this week. And he said that he expects him to be fully available for the football game on Sunday.
Okay.
So I don't see this as TJ Watt doing anything other than kind of hedging his bet, to be honest with you. If you know that you're going to be getting a bunch of guaranteed money and that could change in the blink of an eye with one injury, then you want to take the necessary precautions. But if you know that you're close to a deal with the team, you're not going to hold out. You're not going to walk away. And I think that TJ Watt, and I think this is, we could probably say this for all three Watt brothers, just based on what I've seen of them in the media and what I've seen of them, on social media and stuff like that. They seem to be pretty level-headed guys. They don't seem to be hotheads. They don't seem to be dudes that just fly off the cuff and react. They seem to be guys that have a pretty good support system that are going to explain them what to do and what not to do and how to do it the right and wrong way. So I think that TJ Watt knows that he has to handle this delicately, and that he has to do it in a way where, it's fair to the football team, but also fair to himself. And here's what my problem is the Steelers. I understand. I had these conversations with Dale on Steelers Today the last 2 days. The Steelers have a way of doing business. The Steelers have a way
I'm so glad you brought that up.
They don't negotiate in season, and I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. But what I have a problem with is when you have a guy like TJ Watt who is, and again, when we say worth X amount of money, we have to keep in mind we're talking in football terms, because I don't necessarily think any human is worth millions and millions of dollars like we pay athletes, but this is the world we live in.
Yes.
So I think that when you look at the other defensive players, when you look at his peers in the NFL, TJ Watt is absolutely worth what he's asking for. Now, I think that he would give the Steelers a little bit of a break, but it sounds like the guaranteed money that the Steelers are offering, and I don't have any figures, I don't have any numbers, it just sounds like from the people that I've talked to, the guaranteed money that the Steelers are offering is a little off. I don't think it's way off. I think it's a little off from what TJ Watt wants. And if they can get that ironed out by Friday, I think that this is all for naught. Like these conversations are for naught.
Derek Bell, who was on our show last week, for listeners, he made a great point today so again, you have to compare recent contracts. Joey Bosa, who is an all-pro, Pro Bowl player, but he's not better than TJ Watt. And Chargers fans will tell you that.
Right.
TJ Watt is a better overall player than Joey Bosa. Got $78 million guaranteed. So TJ Watt's agent is going to say, listen, if Joey Bosa got this much, my guy's at least worth this much. But here's 100%. The argument of why the Steelers should be okay with that. Because the worst case scenario here is that TJ Watt goes down the Lev Bell of being franchised 2 years in a row. Because that's a thing that can happen.
Right.
Okay. But when you franchise them, you do guarantee them that money. Well, if he gets franchised, he'll make according to what I'm seeing on Twitter, around $50 million the next 3 seasons. So
that keeps going up too. That like every year he gets franchised, that number goes up. Yeah.
So you're going to pay him 50 to 7. So again, it just front load the contract.
I really like the way I would describe this is and this is just, we'll end on this because we got to go to a break, but I think this is typical Steeler Nation. This is typical Steeler fans in the sense that I think for the most part, everybody's making a mountain out of a molehill right now.
Sure.
Because he's still under contract. If it doesn't get done this season, they still have a whole off season next season to get it done. There is plenty of time on this. TJ Watt's not going to sit out. He's not going to not play on Sunday. He's not going to play hardball to that extent. He knows what's at stake. He knows what he can lose, and he's not a stupid guy. I think when we're having this conversation, I think it's good to have this conversation because it exposes a little bit about, culture. It exposes a little bit about, like what we think of millionaires and billionaires and teams and players. But at the end of the day, TJ Watt's going to play. He's going to be in black and gold. He's going to be on the field on Sunday. And
I will say, before we go to break, I will say, so the Steeler way, the one thing is recently the Steelers have done a lot of things that they was never the Steeler way. They were never going to trade first round picks until they did, and they traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. They were never going to make a big trade up in the draft. They traded for Devin Bush. They never signed veterans to big deals. They signed Joe Hayden to one of the largest free agent contracts at the time. So over the last couple of years, they have and also the voidable years. They never used the voidable years until recently as well.
They've been using that the last few years like crazy.
So the one thing I will say is that the Steeler way, remember, this isn't Dan Rooney. So this is a whole new era of Steelers football. In the last few years, they've already set the precedent that they're willing to do things that aren't in the traditional Steeler way if it's the right situation. And to me, this is the right time.
This is absolutely the right time. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about maybe the outlook on the the Buffalo game, and then maybe how this TJ Watt stuff. And then maybe we'll get into some hockey after that. This is the Mad Chad and Eddie Show on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Mad Chad and Eddie Show on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am your host, Eddie Provident. With me is Mad Chad Nolan. And Chad, we have got real football coming this week, bud.
Thank God.
Thursday night kicks everything off. We've got Buccaneers and Cowboys on Thursday night. And then Sunday, we've got a whole slate of games, including the Pittsburgh Steelers at Orchard Park to play the Buffalo Bills. What do you think, dude?
Well, I will tell you that one non-football factor of it, I just read today that the Bills are opting to wear their white jerseys and the Steelers are going to wear their home black jerseys, which I love for aesthetic reasons. And I have a very hot take in sports that it always looks better when the home team wears their white jerseys and the away team wears their dark jerseys.
All right, dude, I gotta pause you for a second, man. We are 2 for 2 today on hot takes that we agree on. This has never happened. This is a record. We've never gone 2 hot takes in a row. I love the white jerseys at home, man. I love it. You're 100% right on that.
Especially in hockey, but even in football, and especially with the Steelers black versus a home team wearing white looks so good on TV. Yep. As for the actual game, okay, so originally when we got into preseason, I was all hyped up because we haven't talked football for a while. I was starting to drink the Steeler Kool-Aid, and I was like, man, I think this team's going to win 11 games. I'm starting to get reined back a little bit. One of the big reasons why is the offensive line, man. Like the Chooks, I'm going to be honest with you, and we were getting into this a little bit last week. They have officially moved Chooks back to right tackle. And now Dan Moore, a 4th-round rookie, is going to start at left tackle. I have to be honest. I see that as them admitting that Chooks experiment at left tackle, they're already calling defeat on that. Because he was not good. He did not look good at left tackle. And if you're going to start a rookie left tackle over Chooks, that's telling me you have no faith in Chooks at left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if it's a comfort thing. I don't know if it's if it's what you're saying. I am concerned about the tackles. I'm not concerned about the interior of the line.
No, I think the tackles are what Ben's going to be worried about. Yeah.
But I think after talking again to talking to DK, talking to Dale, reading up on what the Steelers, what it looks like they're going to be doing. I originally thought going into this game, and I even made this comment to you and Derek last week, that I thought that the Steelers were going to rely heavily on a lot of misdirection, a lot of, spread them out wide, try to, protect Ben that way. I have come around to the idea that I don't actually think that's what's going to happen. I think this is going to be the Najee Harris show on Sunday.
It has to be.
I think it has to be. Yeah. And I think that Najee Harris is going to get the ball on the ground. They're going to be getting him out in the open on screens. They're going to try to get him on those little wheel routes. They're going to be doing a lot to get Najee the football. And a lot of that is going to be ground and pound up the middle because he's 6'2", 240 pounds. So I think that they are going to lean heavily on that strength of the offensive line, which is the interior, especially at the guard position with Kevin Dotson and Trey Turner. And I think you're going to see a lot of Najee Harris on Sunday. I think if that works, then that opens the game up for Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to see more play action because it's a Matt Canada offense. And we're going to see more motion because it's a Matt Canada offense. And if that happens, I can see a scenario where this ends up being a 35-31 football game where there's a lot of offense being scored because Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, now Emmanuel Sanders, Zach Moss, and
Beasley.
Yeah, Beasley. And I mean, they have a lot of weapons in Buffalo. They have a lot of offensive weapons to use. And Josh Allen, aside from Patrick Mahomes, man, I don't know too many people that could throw a football like that, dude. That ball that he threw in the preseason, he threw a 40-yard dart that didn't get higher than 8 feet off the ground. So it's gonna be a challenge for the Steelers defense, as good as they are, with the pieces that they're missing and the rustiness. And I know Buffalo's going to be rusty too, but it's going to be a challenge to stop that Buffalo offense. It's going to be a challenge for any defense in the NFL to stop them.
Yeah,
but I really think we're underrating the Steelers offense. And I understand what you're saying about the offensive line, but with our weapons, we've got Juju, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Eric Ebron, Pat Freiermuth right now. That's a lot of weaponry for Ben Roethlisberger to use, that if he gets any kind of time and if they have any kind of run game, this is going to be a really fun football game to watch. If you like high-scoring football, if you like a lot of offense in your football games, this is the game. I really do think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Bills, they have a revamped pass rush. Their secondary is pretty talented. Also, fun fact, Ben Roethlisberger in his career at Buffalo has not been very good. In fact, he has never had a game up there where he threw more touchdowns than interceptions in a game. He's either been even or he's been negative in that factor. For some reason, he goes up there
with the stats. I like it, man.
He doesn't play well. So I am a little worried. I gotta be honest. When this schedule came out before we even saw these 53-man rosters, I kind of had this one marked as no, and I had them winning 11 games. I just think I'd be shocked if we don't see Buffalo in the Super Bowl this year. And I know that inside the NFL tonight, 3 of the 4 guys on that show picked Buffalo to win the AFC this year.
They're a good football team. Their weakness was the defensive line, their front four, and they really did a lot to fix that in the offseason. So yeah, they're coming. They got something to prove because I don't think that Kansas City game sat well with them.
I think you'll be able to tell in the first half of the game if the Steelers are able to effectively move the ball and hold on to the ball. Because here's the thing: the Steelers are going to have a good defense this year, but we know this is a quarterback league. This is a points league. Even like these teams like Green Bay and Seattle and Kansas City and Buffalo, even when you contain them, they still usually put 20, 25 points up. Josh Allen is that good. I really think he might be the 4th best quarterback in the NFL, maybe even the 3rd, now that like Rodgers and a few other guys are getting older. So, and just reading some of the scouting reports this week, they're saying that the Steelers are going to have to blitz more because the reason why Kansas City was effective last year against Buffalo was they blitzed more than 50% of their snaps. That worries the hell out of me though, because I'm just so worried. Like if that blitz doesn't get there, or Allen, Josh Allen, he's mobile. If he gets out, I think Buffalo is going to be able to put a couple of big plays down the field. So then I'm going, can the Steelers offense match them in a shootout? I don't believe so, but I do think it will be close. If you're a betting person, I would probably bet just bet the over for this game.
Yeah, I would 100% do that. Yeah, I think so.
But turnovers and the big plays are really what's worrying me. If the Steelers don't win the turnover battle or the big play battle, they might lose, and they might lose decidingly.
Yeah. What do you what's your thoughts on defense? Like you talked about blitzing, the defensive backfield.
Well, not having to it really hurts.
Yeah, not having to it hurts, but I think that between Wormley and Tyson Alualu, I think that they can manage it. As long as Watt is even 75% of what Watt is, I think that defense is going to be okay. But my thing is, if you're going to blitz a lot, that means you're going to rely either on a lot of man on man, or you're going to rely heavily on a couple of new corners to really hold the fort down. If you're going to blitz, 5, you're going to send 5 or 6.
Who on that team can cover Diggs one-on-one consistently?
And I don't know that there is anybody. So that's my concern. But at the same time, I also don't want to see them just only rush 4, bring
and
7 back in coverage,
and play that soft zone.
Because Josh Allen will eat them alive. That's the thing that I want to see is, if we do see Witherspoon this week, if he gets any playing time, how do they use him? That's something that I want to see. I want to see Joe Schobert in coverage. I want to see if he's everything that he's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
I want to see.
I don't want to see Robert Spillane in
no,
coverage.
not at all. But and I'll tell you another one off the whole Joe Schobert thing.
Yeah.
I want to see what Joe Schobert calling the plays on defense. I want to see what that does for Devin Bush, because the whole idea of that is that if Devin Bush doesn't have to think as much, and I'm not saying Devin Bush isn't a thinking man. You have to be intelligent to play middle linebacker. That's not what I'm saying. But if that frees him up to be a little bit more reactive instead of sitting back and trying to figure things out, he's already a fast football player. I want to see how Joe Schobert, what kind of effect him being in the middle of the defense has on Devin Bush, because I think that could be a big help as well. There's a lot of little side things here about this football game that I'm excited to see happen and how they play out, because, this with the preseason, more and more we're seeing the teams just don't play their starters as much. And so we haven't really had a chance to see this team other than a quarter and a half against Detroit. And even then it wasn't, there were still pieces missing. So I'm excited, man. Like this is as excited as I've been for the start of a football season in quite some time.
And also, so I know, listen, it doesn't matter that I'm going to say what I'm about to say, because I know how it's going to happen on Sunday. They lose this game, even if it's a close game. Oh my God, everyone should be
gloom and doom. Yep.
Again, a lot of smart people at Buffalo consider this a lot. Even the people that I saw having the Steelers go to the playoffs this year, this is not a game where the only team that would probably be favored in this game at Buffalo would be Kansas City or Tampa Bay. No other team would be favored.
And even then, it wouldn't be. It would be very, very close.
This is a game that I was like, yeah, that's a loss. I just want, because last year when they played Buffalo, and again, that was when the wheels were really falling off and the shit wagon was, it was bad. I just want to see this team, if they just look better to me aesthetically as a team than they did the last couple games, even if they lose by a touchdown or less, I'm gonna be fine, because I think they'll win the next 2 games, and then we're back to 2-1.
And everything's fine.
And no one cares. So I'm not worried really if they lose. I'm worried how they look if they lose.
Yep. That is a very, very good way of putting it. And I think we will end segment 2 on that note. When we come back, I got the Latane Cult hoodie on. I want to talk some hockey, man.
My favorite topic.
Hockey's our bread and butter. I love talking hockey. We didn't get to last week. So when we come back from the break, we're going to get into some Penguins talk. I want to talk to you about Tristan Jarry. I want to talk to you about Brian Boyle. And I want to get your opinions on some things, Chad. So this is the Mad Chad and Eddie Show on the DK Sports Podcast Network, DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We will be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the Mad Chad and Eddie Show on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Eddie Provident. With me, as always, is Mad Chad Nolan. Chad, I know we've got football to look forward to, but we had some hockey news this week, and everybody that knows Mad Chad and Eddie knows we're hockey guys at heart.
Yes.
And the Penguins brought in a couple of new bodies on player tryout offers, and I'm fine with them. I think all three of them are low risk, high reward situations. Maybe not super high reward, but they're they could work. They could work out. Matt Barkowski, who I think is the lesser of the three for sure, and then Louis Domingue, goalie, the goalie to bring in, veteran goalie who's got a lot of NHL experience, and then finally, and this is the one I'm most intrigued about, is 36-year-old Brian Boyle, who was on the Rangers, on the Tampa Bay Lightning, on the Leafs. He's made his way around the NHL, but it could be a solid center for you if you manage his minutes correctly. Also beat cancer, and that is why he sat out the last year and a half because of COVID-19. Did not want to put himself in a compromised situation, and I don't blame him at all, but now he's trying to make a comeback. My question for you, with Evgeny Malkin being out for at least a chunk of time, in the in the regular season, we have a little bit of a lack of depth until he comes back at center. You're going to obviously have Sid at first line center. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to put Jeff Carter at second line center. Third line center and fourth line center.
Bluger.
Yeah, Bluger is probably going to be until Malkin comes back. Malkin comes back at the third line center. So that leaves a little bit of a void at fourth line center, especially with Jared McCann leaving. I think Jared McCann would have probably ate those third center minutes, but now with him not in the picture, this is where Brian Boyle comes in, because Ron Hextall has said he wanted to get a little bit bigger. He wanted to get a little tougher. And Brian Boyle checks those while still being a decent face-off guy, being pretty productive for a bottom six guy, and he's very responsible in his own zone as far as I understand the numbers. So I think that Brian Boyle is a really nice low risk. Give him a tryout and see if he makes the team, especially in the situation that we're in with the center depth. And he's a veteran that can bring some presence to the team and help some of these younger guys on the bottom six out, because we do have a pretty young bottom six. What's your thoughts, Chad?
I mean, for one thing, it never hurts to bring in guys for PTOs. I mean, for one thing, it's a great opportunity for them because there's a lot of guys that I remember that guy. You'll see it every year. Oh, I remember that guy. I forgot he was in Zona League. Yeah, that's why he's on a player tryout right now. Brian Boyle, for one thing, my God, if you're a Penguins fan, you know who he is, because it feels like he used to score goals against us all the time. This is the ideal bottom six Yinzer forward. I mean, they would love this guy.
I like the way you put that.
Literally, like I would, not my cup of tea. He's 36 years old, didn't play last year. What can he really bring? At most, I think maybe, he could play a couple games here and there. I'd be more interested in maybe just trying out some of those younger guys. Anthony Angelo is someone that intrigues me of getting a bottom six role, because he does play that style that Yinzers are begging for. He has size, and also Radim Zahorna is another guy that
he's huge.
If I'm a preseason, if I'm Mike Sullivan, I'm giving him all the minutes in the world, because I actually want to see if he can play consistently 5-on-5, because we got like a little droplet of him here and there. He made a nice pass. That's all well and good. I want to see him in a larger sample size, because I want to see if he can really play at the NHL level, because he's intriguing to me.
With you 100%, man. The way I look at Brian Boyle is this: if you're in a pinch and you really need that center depth, and you need somebody that you feel like you can put on the penalty kill and kind of do he's good on faceoffs. You need that responsible veteran presence on the bottom six. I like Brian Boyle for that situation. I think what I would like to see the Penguins do, especially if they know, say Malkin's going to be out for the first month and they expect him to come back.
I've heard even longer.
Yeah,
from some
but
people.
let's
Crazy,
nice round number. Let's just say hypothetically it's the first month, right? What I would like to see the Penguins do is bump Sid's minutes up a little bit. Okay, bump the second line minutes up a little bit, and then just kind of don't rely on that fourth line as much. So if you do have a guy like Brian Boyle in there, instead of him playing 9 minutes a game, maybe you have him playing 7.5 minutes a game. Yeah. And then that you make him more effective by playing him less. And you get a guy like Sid, who's going to be in good shape to start the season. You get him on the ice more. And then when Malkin comes back into the fold as he gets ready, you can adjust those minutes and give Sid the breaks that he needs and do all of that later on in the season. But I think you need to manage the minutes, because if you're going to, regardless of who the fourth line center is, because it's going to be someone that is a fringe NHLer. So you don't want to be depending on them more than you need to. So even if it's not Brian Boyle that makes the team as the fourth line center, I would definitely like to see them do that. And I'd almost like to see them, because they have 7 forwards that they're going to be using for the fourth line, like they're battling for fourth line minutes. I'd almost like to see them approach the fourth line as a rotation. There doesn't need to be a slotted guy in the fourth line
unless performance dictates.
Unless performance dictates it.
Yeah.
But okay, play matchups. If you're gonna, depending on how many people, if you can carry 23-man roster,
23,
yeah. So that gives you a forward or two, and I would just play matchups, man. I wouldn't worry about having your set fourth line. If you know you're going up against a heavier team that likes to play a little bit more physical, then have a guy that's ready for that, a Brian Boyle. If you know you're going up against a team where you need to have a lot more speed and skill in the lineup, have a smaller guy. Work it out. So
Dominic Simone.
Yeah, right. So I would love to see them approach it that way. Especially with Sid being, or with Gino being down, I'd love to see them do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that idea makes sense. The only thing that sucks to me, I mean, I definitely didn't want to be at the point of Sidney Crosby being 34 and being like, hey, Gino's out for half the year, so we're going to need to double shift you to start the season.
Yeah, it's not ideal for sure. Yeah, but the thing is with Sid, if you know anything about how he takes care of his body, if there's anybody
he'd probably volunteer to do it.
If there's anyone that can do it, it's him. The other player that they brought in, Louis Domingue, veteran goalie. Not what I think a lot of people wanted to see them bring in as a goalie.
Aren't very good.
His stats aren't good. He's shown flashes, a game here, a game there, where it's enough to make people say, "Oh, is there anything there?" And obviously, the Penguins figured, "Yeah, we'll throw a tryout offer at him and see if there actually is something there." I don't even think he makes the roster personally. I think this is one that it's already hard enough, like you said, to make a roster on a PTO. He's not beating out anybody in the top 3 that I could see. So
the only good thing I can think, for Pens fans that are still listening to this, the good news about the goalie situation, because trust me, I was going to bring this topic to you as we get closer to the season, but Tristan Jarry being back in the starter has made me a little more apathetic towards the season than I usually am as a Penguins fan. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. The Penguins have a nice, solid their prospect pool is not very good, but they do have some goalies that look like they're going to be NHL goalies. Cal Klang, Joel Blomqvist, Jesse Marshall, very high on these guys. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Here's a hot take, though. I mean, I was looking at stats because I knew we were going to talk about Domingue, and I looked up at stats and I almost threw up because they were awful. He has like an 882 save percentage. It's pretty bad. But Casey DeSmith last year was like good. A top 12 goalie in save percentage.
He was good. He was really good.
5-on-5. So I do think DeSmith being back and being healthy, I'm hoping that if he plays that well again, that Sullivan's going to reward him and play him more and maybe force like a competition. Because I think based on performance, I'm just looking at these numbers, he deserves it.
Yeah. I thought that Tristan Jarry had a higher. I think everybody thought Tristan Jarry had a higher ceiling. Yeah. I'm not ready to throw the towel in on him yet, but what I am ready to do is to light a really hot fire under him.
That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. Again, okay. I'm not used to agreeing with you this much, Chad, in one episode. I would have liked to have seen them do that by bringing in somebody like, Linus Allmark, or, somebody like a more proven
Peter
veteran
Mrazek.
goalie,
Yep.
Peter Mrazek.
Yep.
But to your point, if we're looking for an established goalie that has good numbers, we may have that in Casey DeSmith. So, yeah, I would, if I'm Mike Sullivan, I am 100% sitting Tristan Jarry down and saying, listen, you're not our number one goalie. You are 1A goalie. Okay. And you may end up being 1B very soon. So you need to prove it to the hockey team that you're worth being the starter, and let Casey DeSmith do his thing, man.
Especially if it's, again, where like DeSmith has like a 918 save percentage and Jarry has 909. Like at some point, I hate in sports when I'm seeing like coaches say accountability and all this stuff, and then I'm watching one guy outperform another guy, but that one guy that's outperforming that guy might not get rewarded, because I feel like I'm like living in the freaking Twilight Zone. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, why
yeah, so yeah, but I think Sullivan will, because I think DeSmith was starting to get more and more starts last year until he got hurt.
Yeah,
so
and if he wouldn't have been hurt, I 100% believe we would have saw him in the playoffs. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that's what you have to do. You have to approach this as a 1A, 1B situation. And we won 2 Stanley Cups, back-to-back Stanley Cups, with a tandem goalie situation. So towards the end of the season, the year that Fleury got hurt, the first year, and then that whole second year, it was Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury basically splitting time. There wasn't really a clear-cut number one and a number two. It was a 1A, 1B situation, and I don't dislike that, because
and you need it nowadays.
Yeah, we see, like, look at these goalies that by the end of the season, they've played 65 games, they've played 60 games, and they're dog tired, they're hurting, they can't play through the playoffs. So it's not a bad thing to have.
You don't need 2 elite goalies, you need 2 quality NHL goalies.
Yeah, you need 2 guys that could just hold the fort down and then have surround them with talent, and that's it. The last thing I want to talk about hockey wise. Now, full disclosure, I am stealing DK's thunder here. If you listened to DK's daily shot of Penguins for Tuesday morning, he talked about Evgeny Malkin and whether or not Evgeny Malkin should be going to the Olympics because of the knee injury. And if you haven't listened to that, pause this right now. Go listen to DK's daily shot of Penguins so you're caught up on the conversation. All right, unpause. We're back to our show. Chad, his thing was, it might not be the worst idea, and I, that for Evgeny Malkin to not play in the Olympics because of the knee injury. Getting Evgeny Malkin to say no to the Olympics because of this knee injury is probably not going to happen. But from a Penguins fan standpoint, it's not. It's, like, I don't want to see him going into the Olympics and then blowing this knee up again, and then he's done. As much as I love the best on best, and I think that when you have best on best in the Olympics or the World Cup or whatever, I think it's the best brand of hockey, because, boy, these, U.S. versus Canada, U.S. versus Russia, Canada versus Russia, like all these games, getting Sweden involved, Finland involved.
It's the best.
It's the best, man. There's nothing better than it as far as hockey goes. But at the expense of my hometown team, I don't know that I want to see that.
I do. So we'll disagree for the final segment. And
all right, we finally got one.
I would love to see the person's face, in Evgeny Malkin's face, that has to go up to him and say, "Hey, we're not letting you go to Russia."
Yeah.
Evgeny Malkin, to me, again, it would be one thing if like him and Crosby and Letang were like the Buffalo Bills and they lost like 3 cups and they didn't accomplish half the stuff that they accomplished. And
That's a good point.
We were like, hey, these guys have nothing left to give us. To me, at this point, I said, I know that it's an unpopular opinion sometimes, but I said I'm willing to go down with the ship. To me, these guys have earned the right to play they're on the last 9. They might even be on the last 4 or 5 of their career. I think you do whatever it takes to accommodate them and say thank you. And also, maybe I'm wrong. I get an actual thrill when I go and watch a game with a national audience, and they go Evgeny Malkin of the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins, I get a thrill out of that.
That's
valid.
I'm like,
yeah, that's my guy.
That's my guys. Yeah.
Yep. So. Yeah,
Chad, I had the opportunity to go to when the World Cup of Hockey played their 2 exhibition games here. I had the opportunity to go see that. And that was the 2 games that I saw were North America, which was the Young Guns, like that under 23 team or whatever it was.
Yeah, Murray was on that in that tournament.
Matt Murray was on that. Yeah, he was on that team. Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Johnny Gaudreau, Nathan McKinnon, Vince Trocheck. That team was stacked. That was a fun team to watch. I watched them play the Czech Republic, and then I watched Canada versus Russia. And Canada versus Russia in Pittsburgh with Sid facing off against Gino.
So cool.
to start the game is even though it was an exhibition, that is one of the highlights of my hockey fandom, to see that live, to have gotten to see that. And so I 100% understand where you're coming from, and you almost have me conceding my point when you talk about that, because it is something special to see your guys on their teams representing their countries and representing them well.
And also, they did. Maybe if they wouldn't have, because they didn't get to go last time, correct?
Correct.
So at that point, then I'm really against because this could be the last time for
all likelihood. It's probably going to be
So
another 4 years, you're talking 39
cups,
and 38.
I'm not saying, hey, you know what? I know you dedicated your entire life to Pittsburgh and your career and everything, but we're not. No, you can go. You have our full support.
To your point, Chad. Sid has nothing left to prove
at all.
Sid has won everything.
He can retire right now.
He can retire right now. You know what Gino's missing? That gold medal in the Olympics.
And with Vasilevsky in net, they have a legit chance.
Yeah.
Because the one thing they haven't had the last couple of times was a goaltender.
I mean,
now they have the best
you
one.
You run through their lineup right now, and it's going to be Ovechkin.
They just don't have any centers. They just don't have any centers.
It's going to be Nikita Kucherov. Yeah, if they have, I don't know if you consider Evgeny Kuznetsov a number 1 center anymore, but they've got a pretty decent lineup of guys.
Yeah, they're going to be. That's all they need to be.
And they're going to be competitive. And I know that's got to be weighing on Gino. And behind closed doors when they're hanging out together, Sid jabs him about it. He has. They're friends.
They did it in front of closed doors.
Yeah. And so Gino wants this. Ovechkin wants it. So I can't see.
And I bet you Mario would support him going 100%. Because Mario knows how important that is.
So if these guys are able to go and they're able to play, they're going to. Now, if it's a situation where he's still not playing for the Penguins by that point in time, that changes things. That 100% changes things.
That's going to be bad.
But if he's been back for a month or 2 already, and this is he's good to go and he's healthy. I'm you know what, you win this one. I'm conceding the argument to Chad. So, and on that note,
we need the applause.
Right. I'll have to in post. I'll have to put something in there. Yeah. But on that note, that pretty much wraps up our show for today. We really appreciate you tuning in. I got to see some of the numbers for the first 2 days. Obviously, we don't have a clear picture yet, but it seems like the shows are doing well. So we appreciate the support for everybody involved.
4 people listening to me.
Yeah, right. But when we see what's happening and we see that people are supporting this, people are excited about it. It makes it that much more fun. Honestly, it does. It's icing on top. And so we really do, if you're listening right now, we truly do appreciate you listening and hanging out and interacting with us. We love the interactions on Twitter and everything. So for Mad Chad Nolan, for DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network, I'm Eddie Provident. We will see you next Wednesday with another show. Take care, and that's it.